Adam A. Adams is back with us here now, and we've spoken before about what a podcast is and how to start one up. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about how to promote that podcast. So, first of all, why should somebody promote their podcast? Why would they want to do that?
It's funny. I would say the number one reason like why people should promote it is I don't think that they can afford not to.
Mm.
I think that there's just so many people out there start a podcast and they can't, they're having a hard time like keeping up with the I guess all the content that they have to do.
Yeah.
Or they're having a hard time keeping up with all the post production that they need to do, or they're having a hard time getting sponsors so that they can offload the post production, or to feel good about making the content because they're actually making some money.
Mm.
And so what I would say is like if you're not focused on the promotion of your podcast, then nobody's going to be listening.
Yeah.
And so it's going to make all of that bad. It's obviously you're not going to be able to have anyone sponsoring your show because sponsors, they mainly look to make sure that you have listeners. Because why would they put their money in your show if it wasn't going to pay off somehow for them? So that's one thing. Number two is a lot of people, they think that they have to do all of the post-production. That means the editing and the marketing and like the reaching out to their guests or the new guests or after the guests, giving them the stuff where they can share it or creating the image cards or all this stuff that might sound a little overwhelming. But if you have a sponsor for your show, if you have listeners for your show, you can easily hire off all that overwhelming stuff.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is like with you being the person who's creating content that wants to put your help out with the world, right? Who wants to improve the world, who wants to put your voice into the world, who wants to influence other people. You're not going to do that if you don't have any listeners.
Yeah.
You may as well be recording yourself and playing it to an empty room because you are recording yourself and playing it to an empty room.
Yeah.
So you don't want that. I think that you got to focus on being able to promote that show so that you have listeners, downloads, ratings, and reviews. Now you feel good about yourself because you're putting content out to good people. And you also are going to be able to focus on the content part instead of all of the back office stuff that you could hire somebody else. And it all comes with promoting your show.
Absolutely. Is there any way to get loads of listeners without promoting, or is it really an essential part? Is it likely that somebody's just going to find your podcast by searching for it?
There's 3 ways that you get listeners. Number one way is by people searching for it.
Yeah.
But the problem is they're only normally would have to search for the exact title of your podcast.
Yeah.
If you want them to find your podcast. If you have no listeners, iTunes is not going to show your podcast to other people unless they used every single keyword perfectly. iTunes is just going to have it. So it's going to be difficult for them to find unless people are already there. And it makes me think of the Amazon effect. Amazon, why do people want to work with Amazon.com to buy their stuff? Well, they want to work with Amazon. Yes, possibly partly because they can kind of buy things in their underwear. They don't have to leave their house. Sure, those things are compelling as well. But the real thing with the Amazon is something called social proofing. When we go to look at a product, we can go and see what others have said about that product immediately. And if there's tens of thousands of people that all give this product or service a 5-star rating, then we want to check it out too. We can believe in something that a lot of other people believe in. That social proofing is pretty critical. And what's interesting is podcast algorithms, same with social media algorithms, and same thing with Amazon's algorithms. with social media, you make a post and lots of your friends are starting to comment. Facebook says, holy cow, we got to put this in front of more people.
Yeah.
When Amazon sees that they're getting tons of good ratings and reviews of a certain product, and you search for, I like my shoelaces. I don't want to tie my shoes, by the way. So my shoelaces are those elastic things.
Oh, yeah, like Velcro.
Well, yeah, they're more elastic. So I mean, the radio interview people are not going to be able to see it, but there's no lace to tie. They can stretch. Anyway, the point is that I go on Amazon to buy these. Ooh. And I don't see all of the brands. Amazon only shows me one or two brands. They show me the brand if I perfectly type it in, exactly what that company's called. But if I don't perfectly type it in, they're giving me just the lace companies that have the most amount of ratings and reviews. And that's what's going to happen with your podcast is if you get listeners, then Amazon starts being able to, Amazon, and the iTunes or Apple starts being able to say, all right, this is popular. They're looking for a show about real estate. And so this is the most popular real estate show that I have. So they're going to put that out in front of them. So that's kind of like the first thing is just to make sure that you understand that you got to have that social proofing. And I didn't write down your question and I started talking about Amazon. And so there was 3 points that I wanted to make. And do you recall what the question was so that I can finalize those last 2 points that were important?
It was, would you be able to get listeners without promotion? Yeah.
How do you get listeners?
Yeah.
Okay. 3 ways to get listeners. Number 1 is organically for them to search for you. And they're really only going to find you if they A, type it in exactly, or B, you already have tons of listeners. And so Apple's going to put you in front of them. So that's the first way to get listeners is organic.
And B wouldn't really be possible without the promotion anyway, right?
100%. So B, the next way that you're going to get listeners is with your own promotion. Like you're either paying for Facebook ads, you're paying a company like ours because we help you with your marketing for your show to really grow it.
Yeah.
And I believe we're the best at it in the whole world, honestly. So we actually have tons of people that are ranking top 1% or even 5 times better than just the top 1% among the world. And they used to not be ranked at all. Yeah. So it's you do it on your own is the second way, or you pay a company to do it for you. And then the last way that you grow your show is something that you need to do all the time, no matter what. And that is to make sure that your guests are promoting your show for free.
Yeah.
So you either promote it yourself with your email list, with your Facebook, with your social media, with your Facebook ads that you pay for, and you probably want to have the people that are coming on your show share the episode.
Yeah.
Like, for me, I bring on like 3 people as interviews every week. And so we'll basically post 3. And when we do, we create a marketing image for them, like a promotional image.
Yeah.
And we send them the image. We also send them these random things. Some people will know what they are and some won't. Yeah. They're called audiograms and videograms. If you don't know what they are, that's fine. You can literally just type it in and you can see them. But we give them an audiogram, we give them a videogram, and we give them the link. And we send them an email that says, your episode is live and performing well. Thank you for coming on. If you want to share it with your social media or your email fans, then you can do that with these promotional images and links that we're giving you. And then now they'll do the work for us.
Yeah.
The guest will be like, hey, I'm so happy and honored. Like I'm honored that I'm on your show because you have a couple 100,000 people listening to this right now. And that's a huge honor for me.
Yeah.
I love that. It makes me grateful. And so I could go and tell my friends, oh my gosh, I was just on this worldwide national radio station with a couple 100,000 listeners talking about what I'm doing. And then all of a sudden I feel good about myself.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm trying to do for my guest as well. Like, I really want them to feel proud that they came on my show. I really want them to share it. So that's going to help my show grow as well.
Yeah.
Those are the three main ways.
And that really works when you have a guest that's very well known, although for a beginner, it would be quite hard to book someone like that unless they had some connections that they already had.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, and actually, this is kind of like a good tangent to be on for the listener of right now. We're trying to help them to be able to grow their show, and that is good advice right there. I would say that there's three types of people that you should have on your podcast. One type of person is somebody who is brand new. One type of person is who adds massive value.
Yeah.
And the third type of person is somebody who's very, very famous.
Yeah.
Now, it's always good if the person with the value can also be the famous or also be the new person.
Yeah.
And then you don't really have to worry about three types. You just always have valuable people, but some of them are brand new and some of them are really, really famous. The reason why I say that is because a lot of the famous people, they are not going to share every show that they go on.
Yeah.
They are on too many shows. But so it's difficult for them to always want to share and know which ones to share or have time to share another show that they're on. So you don't always get great results with the really famous person. Sometimes you do, but normally they don't share every show that they're on. But what's interesting about these brand new people that are hopefully also adding value, they're so new in this industry. Like if we'll go back to that real estate podcast, I'll get somebody who just did their first fix and flip deal or their first wholesale deal or their first rental. And I'll say, that's awesome that you did that. Come on my real estate show and share.
Yeah.
But this is their first ever deal and they're so proud of themselves. They're definitely going to share it with their audience, and their audience might not know a lot about podcasts, and they'll say, holy cow, you were on a podcast. Now that really helps.
Yeah.
So you want to be focused on all three types. You want people that are brand new because they're more likely to share. You want people that add value because they're more likely to add value to your podcast. Yeah. And you want people that are famous, not because they always share it, but definitely because it adds some credibility to your show too.
Absolutely. So what are some of the methods you use to promote people's podcasts then?
So when we work for our clients and promote their shows, we do a number of things. It's more than a dozen different ideas. I'm going to share the best one last. So I'll give you just a couple of the ideas out of the dozen because we're running low on time for it. And then I'll give you the best one. Okay. So just as an example, one of the things you want to do is a Facebook ad. Another thing you want to do is you want to pay for these banners to go all over different social medias or go to a blog. Somebody has a blog. And so we'll sponsor the blog with one of our clients' shows. So that client show stays on this blog of their perfect client. And it works out really, really well because it's pulling in a lot of people. And then they see the podcast that's perfect for them. Yeah. So these are some of the ideas that we do. But just to skip way fast forward to my very favorite is this private messaging campaign that we utilize when we're working with one of the people from that our clients. Ooh. So what we'll do is we'll try to understand exactly who your perfect client is, your perfect client. Yeah. That's what we do for our clients. We figure out who your perfect client is, and then we just reach out to them. So we'll actually go on LinkedIn. Do they have LinkedIn in the UK?
Yes, we do. We've got everything.
Okay, so we'll go to LinkedIn. We'll plug in some parameters of who we want to find, how much money they might make, what kind of job they might have, what part of the country they might live in, how old they are, if they're male or female. We'll figure out that perfect avatar for our client, and then we search for them. Then after that, we take that information and we skip trace it. And this, so we start by scraping LinkedIn for all of the data. Then we go to the skip tracing to get more information on them. And then we start doing ads to them, Facebook ads. We follow them around on Google and everything like this. We're putting, and as part of it is we put this long, complicated private messaging campaign. Please write it down if you really want to know this stuff. It's a private messaging campaign that goes hand in hand with all the other things that we're doing, where we get people on my team to friend them, to connect with them, and to write private messages, personal messages, direct messages, DMs, whatever you want to call them, where we're actually reaching out to them with a series of questions that says something to the effect of, Hey, John, I noticed that you were a doctor right here in this area. Was wanting to connect with a few doctors just to find out what kind of podcasts you're listening to right now. And then you just ask them, what kind of podcasts are you listening to? Then they give you some of the feedback, and then we start to develop a relationship with them. And then later we say, oh my gosh, to that same person, John, or whoever we were talking to. Oh my gosh, John, I just came across a podcast that you might like. May I send it to you? And then John says, yeah, sure. Send it on over. And then we forward the link to our client's podcast who wants to be in front of doctors. And then we follow back up with John and we say, hey, what did you think of that episode I sent you? And then a couple of weeks later, we say, oh my gosh, John, I just listened to the most recent episode from this podcaster. Did you hear it too?
Yeah.
Question mark. And so what it ends up doing is it makes John really believe in that person's podcast, because a third party, that's us, is talking it up and believing in it and helping them do it. So that's just a little bit about what we do for marketing.
Yeah. Some people might think that's maybe a little bit weird, making kind of friends with someone just to promote something.
Of course. And yes, it's weird. And I'm sorry to say, but I'm probably the only guy doing this right now. And that's why it's working out so well for our clients.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you how many of our clients have recently started going from not being ranked at all to now being ranked internationally, worldwide, globally, in multiple different categories like business and investing and education and comedy. Our clients are getting ranked on all of these things because we're the only people doing the marketing this way.
Yeah. And how quickly does this promotion take effect? From when you start it, how long does it take to get a lot of listeners to the podcast?
Perfect question. We literally just launched a podcast for one of our clients yesterday.
Ooh.
And 2 days ago now, and they've had 700 downloads, so about 350 downloads per day, and so it can work immediately. As soon as I understand your avatar, I build out the system of how to get in front of that perfect person, and it works within hours. I mean, because this is private messaging, we're getting downloads for your podcast within a matter of hours. Generally, we're getting downloads, ratings, and reviews. In fact, we get more ratings and reviews for our clients than they could have ever gotten on their own.
Yeah.
Because as part of our follow-up questions, we might say something in effect of, I just left these guys a rating and a review.
Yeah.
You should too. And then we'll follow up with them in a couple of days, say, hey, did you ever give that podcaster an honest rating? Question mark.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh no, but I'll do it right now. And so that's how we get tons of downloads, tons of listeners, tons of ratings, and tons of reviews. Way more ratings and reviews, by the way, than they could have ever gotten.
Yeah.
Just completely organically, because unfortunately it's very few people that do leave a rating and a review on their own. But with us as marketers and doing these private messaging campaigns, we're literally asking them if they gave an honest rating and review, and we're encouraging them to. So we're generally getting 75% of those listeners actually give a rating and a review versus less than 1% of most listeners who want to give a rating and a review. It's so much more effective the way we do it.
Yeah. And it's interesting because before I spoke to you, I'd never even heard of being able to leave a review on a podcast. So maybe that's why a lot of people are not doing it, because they don't know it's a thing.
True. True.
Well, thank you very much for joining us today, and we'll have you on one more time next week to talk about editing our own shows.
Awesome. Can't wait.